found deliverance. This is the only way. This is the only way.
My name is Nigeria Chambers. I'm from Big Go Belt Media. Hugo and Ella, thank you for your time today and congratulations on your new film, The Occupant, in theaters on demand and digital August 8th. How's everyone doing today?
Pretty
Doing
good.
good. Thank
Good,
you.
good, good. It's been a very long week and had a chance to check this out and definitely ready to discuss it. I want to start off,
Nice.
I guess, with you, Hugo, because I feel like in casting a role such as this, you either got to know the person or you have to have some type of trickery to make somebody endure what this character has to endure, because it's grueling. And I think there's so many metaphorical messages. I think the film is very layered, which I'm very excited to dive into. But I mean, when you have to turn in a script to turn the script to somebody and say, "Hey, I got a role. I want you to play." None of this is going to be fun potentially, but it is going to tell a powerful story. Just talk to me about the approach, and then ultimately when it landed in Ella's hand, and then obviously Ella, I would love to hear when it landed in your hand. What was your initial reaction to it?
Yeah, great question. Of course, this is pretty difficult. And I think the way that we approached this was much more on the emotional side of it. So instead of focusing the attention on the physical challenge that it was going to be, Ella and I actually spent a lot of time talking about the story, about the character, and kind of like developing it together. And then once somebody has kind of like ownership over a character, then you can bring the bad news, right? Like I say, like, oh, by the way, we're going to shoot all of this in location. It's not going to be in a studio. We're going to take you to Georgia, the country, to the Caucasus Mountains, and it's going to be cold and it's going to be uncomfortable, even when you're not in front of the camera, because like the conditions of shooting in Georgia like are just different than shooting in LA, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a slow process of making sure that we didn't lose Ella in that journey. But no, I had every confidence that she was up for the challenge, and she said that from the beginning as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Fantastic, fantastic story and fantastic performance, Ella. Now, yeah, when it got in your hand and you by all means you both had permission to curse if needed. But I would love again to hear the reaction and I would love to hear the initial reaction, then ultimately when you really understood what was at hand with this.
So I I have kind of what you'd expect, but slightly different. This actually came across my desk in 2019. And I was I just finished shooting a Hollywood movie, a really cool indie project that I was in, like, you know what? I'm just ready to like really take this to the next level and get really gritty with it. So when I read the script, I was like, you know what? Hell yeah, I'm just ready to go there with that. And that was in 2019. So then 2020 happened, dot,
Mhm.
dot, dot. Then, so we kind of had to endure that. Then I ended up shooting another project during the pandemic, which was an entire experience in itself. Then, when we finally got around to shooting this in 22, I'm like, I was exhausted. I was like, we've been through so much. I'm just in such a different mental space
Yeah.
to where I was when this first came across my desk. And that was kind of when I was like, you know what? If there is any time, if there, I would be surprised if there was any other time in my life where I, funnily enough, wouldn't be more ready to shoot this. Because,
Mm. Mm.
the character is so tired. The character is having gone through this journey for such a long time. And I could find a lot of parallels with myself with that and everything that, I'd been through too.
Yeah.
So then when I went to Hugo, and I did find out it was, gonna be on location and we're gonna do the whole thing and it's gonna be exactly as is written on the page. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come on set and probably, obviously be number one on this call sheet and make sure all the crew is having a good time and try and keep spirits high. But like, if I'm coming in and I'm like miserable, it's probably because I am.
Yeah.
Like, no one really wants to be doing this. But like that is the time when we need to use that because there is no
Mm.
other way I'm going to be able to bring more truth to this character unless like I don't know, we have to artificially manufacture something. But like this is it was just it was how long did we shoot this for? This the entire time I was waiting every like in the morning I remember I'd be waking up like 10 minutes before my alarm and just be like, wow, I've got to do this whole day. Like it's, it was a lot. And I think that's kind of a lot of what you see on camera is just that real emotion of me doing my best to channel what I was feeling to the character. And then Hugo then just being brilliant and diving even further deeper and to be like, because again, it is that when else are we going to be doing this?
Yeah.
So we might as well just go full send with it.
Yeah. Whew. Kind of you alluded to it a little bit, but you mentioned how you felt there was no better time than now. I wonder if the pandemic in a way sort of created not only and I'll just speak for myself, obviously. I know the pandemic for me created this desire to reconnect with humans, due to the isolation, due to the uncertainty of where the light at the end of the tunnel was going to be. So obviously, given the opportunity to get back into the normalcy of the world, I ran full steam ahead. But I wonder for you, was it sort of a twofold thing? Because not only was that possibly certainly feelings and emotions that you shared, but also the feelings of isolation helped you perform in this role.
Yeah,
Would you say?
100% just like that idea of the more you struggle for something, the kind of harder it gets to get through that thing. Like the for me personally, like the more I was stressing out about being so in the pandemic, like you say, isolated, the more isolated I ended up feeling. And the kind of the the panic and struggle that Abby has as a character, the more she fights against the inevitable truth of what's going to happen, the
Yeah.
harder it is for her to even not just accept but get home.
Yeah.
Like she ends up putting her like she literally makes her own life harder for herself.
Yeah.
In the fact that she's understandably but quite selfishly trying to hang on to this quite stubborn determination of wanting to change the inevitable.
Yeah.
Um, and the second she kind of just lets go and accepts and is more selfless and kind of listens to what her sister needs and embraces this very kind of quiet, painful but truthful reality. Funnily enough, things get a lot easier, and not maybe not in the way she wanted, but in the way that it kind of needed to be.
Mm.
And that's all in Hugo's direction. That was all Hugo masterfully shooting this to
Yeah.
kind of he shot the hardest. I think Hugo you had to rearrange the kind of because of the terrain and the Caucasus Mountain weather and everything. We ended up having to shoot the hardest stuff first, which meant that towards the end of shooting, A, I'm exhausted, but B, like I just was able to, as an actor and therefore translated as a character, just able to sort of just let go and just
Yeah.
submit to the reality of the fact that I'm just gonna have to face this very emotionally hard scene at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to come back to you on that last scene, but Hugo, I want to ask you. I mean, in filmmaking, some of the initial things that you do is principal photography, and you kind of get a lay of where you're going to be shooting at. A couple of questions to ask you about that. One, upon your initial sort of recon in terms of where you were going to shoot, when it actually came down to shooting, was it worse or was it better than when you initially had projected for? And then ultimately because the weather, the terrain, the atmosphere all plays a particular character, what was really some important factors that you want to ensure was incorporated to kind of give this sense of dread, but this journey, making the audience feel, as I said, the character around the setting, making us feel like we are actually within the terrain each and every step.
Yeah. Yeah, so even before we started shooting, I've been to most of these locations already 4 times, spread
Okay.
over 2 years. And I saw it in all different weather circumstances. And that actually is kind of like the fuel of nightmares. So I had lost many nights of sleep just thinking about this ice lake. That at a certain point, because in Georgia is a land climate, and kind of like there's a hard transition from winter to summer, right? So there's no kind of like easing off. So once the snow is gone, it's gone, and
Mhm.
then you don't have the snow for another 10 months. So I had all these nightmares of like a week before the shoot, the snow disappearing, the ice disappearing. And yeah, there's no way to speed up such a machine of like a whole village you have to move, right? Like you can't speed it up with a week. And then actually on the day that we arrived and we started shooting, I got the opposite. So there was such a dump of snow that we couldn't even reach the locations anymore. There was like 3 meters of snow. So I was like, okay, I got what I wanted,
Yeah, see what happens
but
when you
now we
pray.
can't. Exactly, you pray too hard, and then
Yeah.
it's just be careful what you wish for, because we had the like big Soviet era trucks kind of like trying to plow a way through. We had to carry on these sleds. We had to carry all the equipment towards the set. It was like a mess, and I was like, okay, great. So this is what it's like to work with Mother Nature. Like there's no planning around that, and yeah, it's great, and that's what I wanted, because I want to give an audience a genuine experience, right?
Yeah.
And now we live in a world where everything can be created in a studio or generated even. And for me, I think kind of like almost the agreement you make with an audience, like we'll endure this stuff so you don't have to, and we will take you on this journey. And by doing so, it becomes something that's meaningful, and you feel like people have actually sacrificed for this art, and that hopefully also translates on screen. So
Yeah.
yeah, like everything you see when Ella's feeling miserable or where she's cold, it's actually because she's really miserable and really cold. There's no faking that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we just had to press record, so that's it. And but getting there, that was the biggest challenge, of course.
I swear if I had more time, I would love to hear what happened after you all were done filming. Like, what did you do to make it up to her? What did you do to get back in a great happy spot? Because it seems like miserable is the theme. But if this wasn't the measure of method acting that you wanted to do, well, here we are. It worked
Well,
one way or
exactly.
another.
I
Um,
don't think I was like, I'm not fully method, but I'm like, I think the kind of elements almost forces you into a little bit of that space. I'm like kind of, yeah, my process kind of got altered by talking about working with Mother Nature. Mother Nature was like, no, you can't be method for this a little bit. There we go.
All right, now listen, here's what I want to ask you for my final question. I do find a lot of things to be metaphorical, and I don't know if that was by intent or is it just me just really thinking deeply into the film. And there's a bunch of little things. Because I don't want to give anything away in terms of the thriller that this is. But by the end of the film, you start to really question everything that has happened previously. You really want to kind of get a grasp of reality, shall I say. So I want to ask you all, maybe this is probably the best way to go about this. Is there anything that you feel like the audience really needs to eye in on in terms of what it possibly could mean in a metaphorical stance, or things or certain particular moments within the film that may give a little bit of extra clarity in terms of where you want to land at by the time you're done watching the film? And I'll just quickly say for me, just to kind of tell you where I went off on the deep end, is the helicopter crash, which is in the synopsis, so I'm not giving anything away here. But the helicopter crash, I found that to be completely metaphorical. Like, whether you, however you want to go about it, I found that to be a very layered moment of saying you might want to think a little deeper here about what's happening and what does this mean? What does it mean for the character? What does it ultimately mean for the story? But yeah, if there's anything you all can could kind of point the viewers towards to kind of aid them through this journey a little bit, which will completely help with their rewatchability as well too, might I add. Because that's what I'm already cheating for. I'm like, yeah, now I'm gonna go watch it again so I can take those notes and apply. But yes, for you too, take it away.
Yeah. So the one thing that I would like to say is like I grew up as a kid in the '90s, loving these like hero journeys, right? And that's kind of like what this film takes you on, because you think like this is going to be a hero's journey. There's going to be a Hail Mary at the end. And I found in my own life that reality doesn't really work with these hero journeys necessarily. And when you're confronted with a death, for example, of a loved one, then there suddenly isn't really kind of like a way to win there, you know?
Yeah.
And so this film starts off with kind of like this idea of somebody's going to win, and there needs to be some kind of evil to be defeated. And the evil in that sense, you could see that as like death, the death of a loved one. But at the end, you realize it's not about winning at all. And I think that's transition is for me the most important element to the film. And there are metaphors in the film, definitely, but I also want people to be able to experience this as it is. Not everything has to have a second meaning behind it. But if we want to go deeper into that, then yeah, I can open like a whole book of metaphors for that.
It would
And now that
definitely be like shot things multiple times for multiple different interpretations. There were a couple of times when we were like, we might use this take, we might use this take because they
see,
kind of have different meanings. I know there's that one the last final frame of the film in particular that I fought for. Remember, I was like, no, we need that. That needs to be in the film. So and I'd say the wind has something to do with that for me there. That's probably the one thing I'll say that'll help your little rewatchability situation there.
I love that. This is a great pairing having you two both, because being able to hear both sides of that in terms of how you wanted to shoot it and how you had to play it really gives a lot of perspective and help. I think that's my time here. I just want to really say quickly to you, Ella, that how you have to work with the mysterious helper, shall I say, that component to it, and whether you all were somehow mic'd up together or you just had to play off each other per the script, it was fantastic. It was really well, and you really did feel that tug of war battle between the two, but also a little bit of like consciousness in there, which make me feel like this is a little bit of like Hugo's nightmares in terms of getting into the film, and that extra voice in your head that's telling you like, get up, you got to get to work, or like, hey, Ray, maybe you need to rest. This is better
Yeah.
for you. But I feel like I hear that voice sometimes too, which is why like I really enjoyed that aspect and that component to the film. Who did voice it, by the way?
Rob
It's Rob
Delaney.
Delaney.
Yeah, yeah, okay. That's what I, yeah, 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 yeah. That's what I thought. That's what I
I
thought.
want to say
So
that's music to my ears in particular because, you know, audiences, you being the epitome of a very intelligent audience, you can sniff things from a mile away at this point, you know, like we've seen it all. And so the fact that you're there still thinking that and you know, feeling that nuance, that means a lot. So thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, on that note, Hugo and Ella, thank you so much for your time today. Once again, The Occupant in theaters, on demand, digital, August 8th. Congratulations on this film, and hope to talk to you both on a future project down the line. It's been so much fun today.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great
so
time.
much.
Absolutely. Take care.
Have a great day.